Welcome, everybody, to the October 4th meeting of the Brentwood Rotary Club. I am your very humbled and grateful president, Sarah Johnson, and I'm so grateful to be here today and grateful to see this wonderful round of people here. And I would love to think it's all for me, so I'm going to say it's all for me. So thanks for coming back to my first official meeting back. We're going to have our invocation today is going to be led by Bert Bradford. Our pledge and four-way test is by Miss Sheila Cleveland back there. And Mr. Bert.
Will you bow with me, please? Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we're just so thankful for this weather you've given us today. We just can't be more thankful. Lord, we're thankful for our brotherhood here and the works of Rotary and our fellowship together. And Lord, we just ask you keep encouraging us that we can encourage others. Lord, there are those in our family here that are struggling health-wise, and we just want to continue to mention those in name. Roger Wheelwright, Lynn McGill, Dick Green, John Miles, John Stokes, Beth Dormany, and Bob Searcy's son Clay, his wife Karen, and especially Sarah Johnson for bringing her back to us, all healthy and all. Lord, we thank you for this meal we received today, and thank you for the caterer. We ask you to bless this meeting today in your Son and Savior's name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And recite the things we think, say, and do. Number one.
Is it the truth?
Number two.
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, Sheila and Bert. I really appreciate it. I'm going to now turn over the microphone to Miss Betsy Crossley, who is going to introduce our guest and visiting Rotarians.
All right. I'm going to start up at the front with Manny Smith. Manny, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Manny Smith, Nashville Sunset Rotary Club. Just visiting you wonderful people today. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Where is Sheila Cleveland? There she is. Sheila has a guest today.
Hi, this is Marie Swinford, a very good friend of mine, and she wanted to see what Rotary was all about, and many of you may know her late husband, Carson. Hello, it's good to be here. Oh, there I go. Okay, don't know what to say. It's nice to meet you all. I know some of you, so it's good to see you again.
Welcome.
Close by? We'll go with you since we're closer. Dick saved me a little bit of walk. It's awesome.
I have a guest, Jim Shepard's his name. Jim is a retired international businessman in the glass industry, and he and I serve on the board of directors of the Tennessee World Affairs Council. And Jim is the chairman of the board, and he expressed an interest in Rotary, and I said, well, you've got to come check out the Brentwood Club. So here he is.
All I can say, I've been here for about 10 minutes now. Table 3 is a great table. I look forward to meeting everybody else. Certainly appreciate the welcome feeling I have already just talking to a few folks. Thank you.
And across the way here, you wouldn't believe it, but Jack Massari has a guest. That's awesome.
I have two guests today, Jonathan Merck and Tish Tisherman. Tish is on the Rotary website, pending approval for everybody, and Jonathan is considering membership, so we're pleased to have them both.
And if you've read your bulletin, your reflections, you know that Tish Tisherman is 2 weeks away from being oriented, hopefully. Roger, you have some guests.
Thank you, Betsy. We have a couple of special guests up here at this table today. First, Holly Cummins from the Brentwood Historic Commission. Holly is our guest. She'll also be at the back of the room after the meeting to, if anyone would like to purchase a book. And Holly, do you want to say anything about the book?
First, thank you all for having me. As many of you may be aware, John actually wrote this book several years ago and sold out. So as the 50th celebration was coming about, the Historic Commission talked with John about reprinting the books and then selling them so that the proceeds would come back to the City of Brentwood Historic Commission. I do have some with me here today, and John is happy to sign them for you. And so we really appreciate him working with us on this. It's a fabulous book. If you haven't seen it, I really encourage you to consider taking a look and maybe taking one home with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Also, a lady who needs no introduction, Ann Hope. Ann, you'll see a little of Ann's work. I'm sure you've seen a lot of her work through the years, Channel 2. But she did a segment recently on John and his book and in connection with the 50th anniversary celebration. Ann?
Thank you, Roger, and good afternoon, everyone. I've been a Brentwood resident for 33 years, and but reading this book, I've learned more about Brentwood than I guess I'd ever learn in a lifetime, because it's about someone who has lived a lifetime here in our community. And it was such a delight to meet him and to do the story in honor of 50th anniversary of Brentwood. And I told him at that time, he even knew he was doing this PowerPoint then. And I said, well, okay then, if I can make it, I will be there. So that's why I am here today, to help you all celebrate what our community has become. I love the book. It's a good read, and I highly recommend it.
Thank you, ladies.
Welcome to all of our guests and visiting Rotarians. We're so glad you're here today. I'm going to turn it over, our program, to Mr. Alan Treadway for our Happy Bucks.
Hey, all right. Here's $1, hotty toddy. I don't know why. Hey, I tell you what, Lori.
I have $5. We scored against Alabama. That was a big deal. But I have $5 because I should have told Bert for the prayer, but Skip Bowie had a stroke on the 30th, and he did come back home yesterday. But if you would keep him in your thoughts and prayers and the family, I think he's doing fine. But it was a scary time. So thank you.
All right. Okay. Steve, you got anything?
I'm not saying howdy toddy.
All right. He's a Mississippi State guy. All right. You got $1? Get up. Got the big Tennessee balls here.
Give me 45 points and I'll place a bet with you.
Okay. All right. Oh, John Miles. What do you say?
Hotty toddy.
All right. What do you know? All right. Dick, stand up. You got $1? You want to talk about your Cal Bears?
You weren't here when I gave $5 last week for the Cal Bears stomping all over Ole Miss. So I will give one more dollar just to watch you eat crow.
Okay. Norris, you got $1? Thank you, Dick. All right. Get out $1. Come on. What do you want to talk about?
I will say, I don't know if you heard about Roger Wheelwright, but he had a procedure today to take the fluid off from his cancer situation. And he's getting discharged and going home later today. Seems to be in great spirits and everything, but still needs the prayers. He's in pretty bad shape.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. All right. You got $1? Okay. All right. Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm really happy because tomorrow I leave for Colombia, South America to go see my daughter who's in the Peace Corps there. So I'm spending 10 days with her.
All right. Congratulations. Marie, you got $1?
I do, but I don't want to.
Okay. All right.
I have $1. Last week I had to leave early, so I wasn't able to tell everyone this. Those of you that are new don't recall my blow-by-blow, which says commentary about my marriage. So, as of this week, I have been married 12 years and 1 week. The math is getting easy now, so I'm just going to tell you.
Wait, hold on. Hunter,
Hey,
he's a
Alan.
Vanderbilt Commodore.
Hey, Alan, we do have a speaker tonight. I'm just letting you know that.
All right, the Commodores will beat your Ole Miss team. And that's called a count up, not a count down. When you
Okay. All right. The Tennessee Vols.
I think there's a football game tomorrow night in Knoxville, but it's less than 30 days to basketball season.
Okay. All right. Larry, what's up?
I was going to be just real quiet and easygoing about this, but I was at a game last week. It was the North Carolina Tar Heels. They took the defending national champion to 1 point. So we're pretty happy about that. We're basketball fans.
There you go. Thank you. Mac Brown is the coach of North Carolina. He's a Cookeville native. Hurry.
I wanted to thank John Miles for being my neighbor and good friend all of these years. And this is the first time that I can remember that he hasn't thrown beer cans in my yard.
I'd like to just give $1 because, Alan, you're doing a great job.
Okay. And what do you say?
What do I say? Gingham? Or OH. I say OH too.
All right. All right. Jared?
Comment, just there's $1 all the time.
Right. There we go. Yes, sir.
Here's $10. This I don't go Irish, but that's not what I'm here for. What's Chattanooga? Why are you being weird? This isn't about me. This is about Brentwood's 50th. The last time you're going to hear me say anything, this Thursday is the rendezvous at Ravenswood Mansion. Tickets are on sale online or at City Hall. It's 6 o'clock. Super T's performing, and Curry Andrews will be there. So that should be reason enough.
Thank you, Michael.
Right.
Chief.
Alan, walk quickly.
Yeah.
I thought he was ignoring me because of the shirt I'm wearing. I put 10 in, 5 for a successful knee surgery that has me back with you after a couple weeks off, so thankful for that. And the other 5, and the reason I'm wearing a Vanderbilt shirt as a Michigan fan is they employ 2 out of the 3 women in the Goss house right now. And my youngest, the third one, who graduates from nursing school with honors in December, just found out this week that she'll be employed there as well upon graduation. So proud of her.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Wow. Dale.
I was just going to let Dale come up front.
Man.
And that's $1 for how happy I am we had the barbecue today. And I have to admit, I've seen some people eat before, but Alan impressed me today with the size of the plate that he brought.
Okay. George?
Okay, George is our last one.
Okay.
Hey, George,
Could you do me a favor?
It's just for Roger.
George is putting in his $1 for Roger Wheelwright. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everybody, so much. And I want to be respectful to our speakers. So we're going to, if all of our table captains can go ahead and get out your information, we are going to bring Keely Hall up here right now and go through our fundraising totals for this week.
All right, so we're going to go through quickly, but I do have to give Bart enough time to do the math in his head. So we're going to go table 1. $27.95. Yes, and if captains can tell me if they are at 100%, if everybody will announce that. Table 2. 0. All right. Table 3. $250 for table 3. Table 4. 3500 for table 4. Table 5. Remember to say if you're 100%. Table 5. 3,500 also for table 5. Table 6. 250. Table 7. 0. Table 8. 500 and table 8 is done. Table 9. 0 and lack 1. Okay. Table 10. 1,200 for table 10. Table 11. 550 for table 11. How we doing, Bart? Do I need to slow down? Okay. Table 12. 700 for table 12. Table 13. Yes, sir. Just today. 1,700 today for table 13. Table 14. 0 for table 14. Table 15. 0 for table 15. Do we have a table 16? All right. I think we're all set.
While he's adding, I'll add some announcements.
Go for it.
How about that? Some quick announcements while Bart's doing his tally. We have a BRCCF meeting this afternoon, right after this meeting. Also, Dale mentioned barbecuity. As you can tell, we have a different caterer for today. Just want to be, I believe in transparency with the club. So just a couple of things. We've had some issues with our previous caterer over the last couple of months since they switched management. So we are actively looking for a new caterer. Larry Kane has gotten some suggestions, but we are wanting suggestions from the club. So if you have somebody that you use, that you like, that you think could handle every Friday kind of catering thing and would believe in the mission of Rotary, because, you know, we are a not-for-profit, please let Larry Kane know. We would really appreciate that. One other thing I wanted to mention, and then I'm going to go right back to Bart, or two things. Don't forget the $1 Million Dinner. If you have questions about that, please contact Michael Heineman, Susie Lindsay, myself, and we'll give you more information about that. John Stokes is back in the hospital. They canceled his chemo because his potassium was low, and they are planning to transfer him in a few days to NHC in Cool Springs. So I just wanted to share that with the rest of the club. And hopefully when his potassium gets back, he can start his chemo again, but just to kind of let everybody know. Bart, what do we have today? $14,950 today. Good job. We're not done. Total is $71,915.
So our combined goal is 80, so we're 8,000 short of our combined goal, which is a great place to be with another week to go. And one thing I forgot to mention before is that Jack Massari has now placed a button on our website where if you would like to make your payments to the foundation drive online, you can also do that.
Make it easy. Thank you guys very much. And give everybody a round of applause. All right. I am turning the program over to Jennifer Bourne to introduce our speaker. I lied. I am not turning it over to Jennifer Bourne. I'm turning it over to Roger Greenup to introduce our speaker.
Generations can look at this book and say, look,
The Brentwood
32, so my memory goes back to about 1936, somewhere along in there, and I was that practically every day of my life.
The Brentwood that 87-year-old John Oden remembers covers 100 years from 1850, when his family purchased their first farm in Brentwood, through 1950.
When I started thinking about the book, I decided what I want to write about. I want to write about the black families. I want to write about the white families. And I wanted to write about the businesses in Brentwood. I wanted to write about the community. I wanted to tell what we were doing and tell what other people were doing, so that future generations can look at this book and say, look, this is what they were doing back then.
This historical marker in present-day Brentwood marks a community where Oden spent much of his childhood. It's known as Church Street East today, but back then it was called Hardscuffle Road.
The county line goes right between halfway through the Hardscuffle Road, and neither county wanted to claim it. And so a county would come in with a truckload of gravel and spread it over flat rocks, and you'd start walking, you'd get the gravel, and you'd start slipping and scuffling. So it was a hard scuffle. That's what it amounted to.
Oden remembers Brentwood as a diverse community where area churches brought people together.
But they were just people that loved one another and got along good with one another. Didn't have any money.
But money would come to Brentwood. A move to incorporate the city in 1969 and the opening of Interstate 65 ushered in a new era of growth and prosperity. Farmland sprouted houses and neighborhoods expanded. That growth continues today.
So many people in Brentwood are new. They come from all over the country, and they just find them a nice house and put the kids in school and say, oh, I like it here. But they don't really know where they are.
To commemorate 50 years, the Brentwood Historic Commission wants to engage newcomers as well as old-timers. They reprinted Oden's book, hoping that residents will embrace the city's heritage and safeguard its way of life.
We want people to learn to be part of the community and to care.
Clearance time has kicked off at Wilson County Motor.
Thank you, Linus, and thank you, Ann Holt, for this great segment. And it's an honor to have John with us today. A number of you will remember about 10 years ago, we had John as our guest. And at that time, the book wasn't finished, but he did share with us some of the stories that he'll also share with us again today. And so we welcome John back. John was born here in Brentwood at the corner of Franklin Road and Wilson Pike Circle on his great-great-grandfather's farm that was handed down, inherited through the years. And he's lived all of his life here in this community, this area, except for a few years during the Korean War. He attended early on Robertson Academy in Nashville, and then Lipscomb School over here at the corner of I-65 and Concord Road now. And then he attended Belmont College. He married in 1954, and his wife Sue, they had 2 children, John and Beth. And unfortunately, Sue passed away just a few weeks ago. But for 65 years, they were married, and we're just delighted to have John here with us today. So please join me in welcoming John.
I can't hardly speak after that. I was about as Brentwood as you can get. I never intended to write this book. I tried to get somebody to write a book about Brentwood, and nobody seemed to want to do it. I wanted Brentwood, people to know Brentwood, it was a very diverse community, like Ann Hope said. There were more black families in the village of Brentwood, which I'll be talking about today, than there were white families. And if you're going to say anything about Brentwood, if you leave out the black families, you've left out half of what got it started. So I want to make that very, very clear to begin with. And let's start going here. This is 1847, nothing in Brentwood. Up there would be now Old Hickory Boulevard. Notice the name Atkinson's Gap. We'll talk about that a little bit more. If Brentwood was called anything up until 1855, it was called Atkinson's Gap. That's the gap you go through as you travel Franklin Road from here to going to Nashville. We had a Good Springs stagecoach and post office was down here. This is a farm where I was born right here. Born to my great-great-granddaddy, Solomon Oden. Let's go to the next one. Railroad is what got Brentwood started. If it hadn't been for the railroad, Brentwood would not have been started like it is. This tells about the contract to build it from Nashville to Spring Hill, Tennessee. And you'll notice up here somewhere it said 30 miles of the line extending from Nashville, except 6 miles already in the contract from Atkinson's Gap. So we want to remember that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Let's go. Next one. With the railroad as an opportunity to make money. And the surveyor that surveyed the line from Nashville to Spring Hill for the Tennessee-Alabama Railroad, he joined in with the Tennessee-Alabama Railroad, and they developed a little subdivision right here. Wasn't a whole lot of lots sold here. The lots that were sold, most of them were for black families. And one of the reasons for that was right over here, about where Target store is today, was a Black Methodist church. With a church at Parsonage and also a school there. In today's Brentwood, there's Old Hickory Boulevard, and this is the Target store. The Shell station is there today. Let's go to the next one. This is the second subdivision, and this was reasonably successful. A Frenchman named Francis J. Picanti and a local farmer named James H.M. Hall started this in 1856. The Brentwood Methodist Church was built on lot 42 and 43 right here. There's a little theater there now. I noticed it's for sale. Some of you may know what I'm talking about on Frierson Street now. It was originally Elm Street. Oak Street. Okay, let's see what's next. Yeah, pay close attention to this one. You want to notice up here, how cheap the homes are in Brentwood. I call your attention to the third paragraph down here. It says a post office, a freight house, a store, a physician, and some private dwellings recently built. And it also mentions a handsome brick church. That would be the Brentwood Methodist Church that we're talking about there. The post office and the freight house, it was all in a single building, and we'll see that building in just a second. There's the building right there, built in 1856 by a guy named George W. Simpson. He was a postmaster. You notice that the railroad is level to land. In 1912, when Tennessee-Alabama Railroad decided to, and I got all these people back here, build another line. They dug a 73-foot railroad cut, and they saw a fellow named Hillary Crockett owned that. They bought the building from him, and they told him he could move the building if he wanted it. I'm sure he had no way of moving it. I would imagine a lot of brick in that building around Brentwood somewhere. This is when the Brentwood post office the name was changed to Brentwood Post Office. It was a Good Springs post office, right down where the country club is now. And they moved it to Atkinson Gap on the Tennessee and Alabama Railroad in 1856. This is the first house built in Brentwood. A fellow named Boyd built it. That's a painting that I took a picture of, the painting for the book. Mike Huff, some of y'all may know the Huff that had the grocery store here for years and years. That picture's hanging on the wall in his house, and he told me they were tearing the house down, going to, and once they got started, all of a sudden the house just caved in. So they had a bulldozer there, and they dug a great big hole, and they buried all the house. And that's under the parking lot of the Brentwood Interiors. If you drive into the Brentwood Interiors parking lot, that house is under there somewhere. This is a house that was built probably 1906. It's now located down on Wilson Pike Circle. It's called the Burst of Color Landscape Company. But that was a really nice home down there on Wilson Pike. And well, here we go. This is what was going on in 1878. And you notice there's not anything going on from a light working over here on Franklin Pike. Everything was down here in the area of Church Street. Here was the John K. Simpson grocery store was right there. This is the Brentwood Methodist Church was up here. The cotton gin there. A woolen mill up here. I didn't know too much about a woolen mill until I looked up on the interstate today, and they actually made pillows and mattresses out of wool. They still do that, as a matter of fact. Okay. This was a steam shovel that helped dig the cut through Brentwood. The Marion shovel. My father took that picture when he was a teenager, and I think the thing that got him interested in it, his name was Marion right there. So he had a picture of the shovel. This was when they were building what we call the concrete bridge over the railroad in the 1912 to 1914 time frame. That's when they dug the cut through there. Over here was what we call the powerhouse. There's an electric trolley that ran from Nashville through Brentwood to Franklin. You can see it right there, barely. You can see one of the trolleys. AC current came from Nashville to the powerhouse, and they converted it to DC current to run the trolleys. This is Franklin Road before 1929. The person who took the picture was standing on Concord Road and Franklin Road. And you see this is not the railroad, this is tracks for the trolley that went through Brentwood. This is a map I drew of Brentwood. I hate to say it, but nobody else could have drawn that map because I lived that every day. We had firstborn on the farm, and Roger told you where that was, but the family moved here on Harper Drive in 1940. That was our driveway to our home, and my mother didn't want to use Franklin Road as our address, so she named our driveway Harper Drive, and it's Harper Drive today. Over here was what they call Noble and Oden drugstore. It was built in 1929. A man named Albert Noble bought 5.3 acres right through here. In 1928, he paid $5,000 for it, and everybody thought it was crazy. It turned out it wasn't very crazy at all. These are some of the things that I'll talk about a little bit more later on. There was a powerhouse. This is a grocery store. There's a tourist court behind it. The Palms Dinner Club. It's the feed mill. It's the Stork Club. There were 5 nightclubs in Brentwood, 4 white nightclubs and 1 black. They all had the the same method of operation. They also illegal whiskey, had illegal gambling. They had food and drinks. And seems like I left something out, but we'll talk about it. You gotta think what it is in a minute. Over here, this is where the Brentwood Methodist Church was originally. This is what's called a section yard, where the workers for the railroad that worked there, and we'll see more about that. This is a baseball diamond. It worked reasonably well if it didn't play left field, but if you played over here and somebody hit a shallow fly ball, you had to jump a ditch in order to go down. Hit a foul ball behind first base, it ended up in the cut, and you never saw that ball again. This is where the detour was, and we'll have a picture of that a little bit. There were 3 black churches in Brentwood: First Baptist Church, the Mount Lebanon Missionary Baptist Church was up here. Black and white families both lived in here, and it's a diverse community, and I want to keep mentioning that it was a segregated community, but we all were friends and we all lived there together. And I think, like I said on that little clip, nobody had much money. There was about 4 or 5 people in Brentwood that had money. And when I started writing the book, the one thing I say, I'm going to write about everybody. Rich, poor, black, white, it didn't matter. If you give me information on Brentwood, it's in the book. And that's what I intended to do, and that's what I did do. And I hope you buy the book. I don't get anything out of it. It goes to the Historic Commission. But it's a good read. It's an easy read, and I think you'll enjoy it very, very much. Okay, let's move on. This was most of you probably know where Moorland Mansion is. It's now part of a hotel there. The hotel is built over it and around it. The Moores were the richest family in Brentwood when I was growing up there. This was their barns, and this would be in the parking lot where the original Kroger was. Kroger's moved now further north, but that would be in the parking lot. Chick-fil-A's there. Y'all know all the businesses there in that shopping center. This is one of the railroad trolley cars. You'll notice it was the Franklin Interurban. We Southerners slurred that name. We called it Interurban, is all we ever called it. Nobody ever said the Interurban, but it was a first-class car. This is an interesting picture. Some of you may know this man here. He lived right over the railroad track up here, Alec Noble. Some of you may know Alec. That's Maryland Farm sign. Calling the sign is disrespectful. That was hand carved. Beautiful, beautiful thing. And unfortunately, we talk about vandalism today. Well, vandalism is nothing new. On a Saturday night, 3 Brentwood boys came through, took a baseball bat or something, and knocked off all of these horses. Actually, there were more horses over here. I was coming out of a Little Johnson Methodist Church, which is off of Grand White Pike, on a Sunday morning. Next thing I knew, as a policeman had me by my arm, and the other policeman had my brother. And they were going to arrest us for tearing up that sign, because that particular Saturday night, my brother and I and a couple of friends camped out on Little Harpeth River, and my mother told us, now don't go to Brentwood. Go there and make your campfire and eat your meal, but don't go to Brentwood. Naturally, we went to Brentwood. And there was a service station up here at the service station, and the night manager was a black man named Russ. And of course, the police were looking for suspects. The next morning, they went and they talked to Russ and said, "You see any boys in Brentwood you knew?" And he said, "Yeah, the Odom brothers are here." So they wanted to arrest us, but we fortunately told the same story, and we gave them a little tip we had. So I didn't get arrested, but I came close. Okay. What was the tip? Well, we didn't quite take him out back, but it's pretty close. We had a boy, we had to sit down at the table with him and had a strong conversation with him. This is a drugstore that Brentwood built in 1929, and That's Albert Noble, who bought the 5 acres, and he owned the drugstore building and all that. But my father was at Marion Odom, was a partner with him in the drugstore. As a teenager, I worked behind that counter there, making chocolate nut sundaes and banana splits. If you were a local and knew about the drugstore, there's a door right back there. You could go through that door, and all of a sudden, you were looking at 2 one-armed bandit slot machines. That's the other thing all the 3 of the nightclubs had. 4 of the nightclubs had. Well, 3 nightclubs and a grocery in Brentwood had one-armed bandits, and they all hit them in different ways. And this one was in a giant steel vault. There's no way the police could carry it. Keep going. This is Alec Owen right here, one of the best friends I ever had in my life. He kept me on the straight and narrow. Wonderful, wonderful gentleman. You can see at this time it was Odin's right there, and this is a powerhouse across the way. But I just can't say enough good things about Alec Owen right there. This is my Uncle Robert. That was a building built for a store and post office. It was on Franklin Road, right in front of Pinnacle Bank now. And Albert Noble, the pharmacist, was my daddy. Everybody called him Dr. Noble. He built that as a grocery store and a post office, and I don't think it went over very well, so he decided he would just make that his home. So he moved it back about 100 yards and made a nice home. And that building is now moved down right next to Walgreens, and I think there's some type of an apparel store there. It used to be Enterprise Car Rental. Was in that for years and years.
Rachel's Dress Shop.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I made a tour of Brentwood the last few days looking to see the names of all these places. It's changed since I wrote that book. This is a post office built in 1930. I spent a lot of time as a young boy because my daddy was a postmaster and he was a druggist right next door in the drugstore. My mother was his assistant postmaster, and she also helped in the drugstore. So Daddy was needed in the drugstore. Mom was in the post office. Daddy was in the post office, and Mom would be in the drugstore. So we never took vacations. They were always working. This is a mail train that was over on Wilson Pike Circle as it crosses the railroad track when I was a young boy, and Daddy would take a bag of mail and put it on that train, and the L&N Railroad train would come through, and it would lower a metal arm, and it'd catch that bag right. That's why I tied a string around the middle of it. Sometimes it fell off, and I'd get to run down the track and pick it up. This is a tour adventure here. A man named Bean thought Brentwood was going to really boom right after World War II. It didn't because there was no water. If you dug a well, you could get some sulfur water, but there was no way that anything could grow in Brentwood until the water district came in the later years. Okay. This is a little Texaco station, which is right where Corky's Barbecue is today. My daddy was, at one time, was selling Texaco gas on that side of the street and Gulf gas across the street. I walked out that door on December the 7th, 1941, and Alec Owen, the black man I've been talking about, hollered out, "John, Pearl Harbor's been bombed," of the Japanese, and that really changed our lifetime. Very depressing time. This was a leading nightclub in Brentwood. It was on Franklin Road. Price Daily Market is the name of the place there now. A lot of people, when I tell this part of the story, say, well, that's not true, but it is. The county line went right through here. They had gambling equipment on wheels, so they always had a doorman over here at the door. So when the police came up, they had to know which side they were rolling in. And I don't think the police really were really too interested. They just wanted to kind of keep it not getting away from hand because they could obviously teamed up together and there'd be no way. But that actually happened. I never did see it inside, but I'd watched the doorman standing there at the door, and I'd seen the policemen several times come up on their motorbikes, or whatever you call them. And on Saturday night, that was a lively place right there. I was a member of the Boy Scouts, and we met down on the corner of the Old Hickory and Franklin Road. And I would walk by that on my way to home after Boy Scout meeting, and I could hear Dinah Shore singing in there, and the music playing. Okay. This was, actually this club was right next to it. It was not as large, but more sophisticated. The waiters all wore tuxedos. The bartenders would have tuxedos. They had fine china and silverware for the meals. The way they had their slot machine was, it was on a dumb waiter when they had their own guard in front of them. So when they knew it, they would just lower it, and the police walk in, and they'd just walk right across it and wouldn't know it. This is was actually a blacksmith shop before my time, but this is on the Wilson Pike where that Shell station is, where you go up on the interstate. A fellow named James Isaac Hewitt, he started a repair shop, automobile repair shop in 1929, the same year that the road was paved and the drugstore was built. Okay, got it. And in 1930, he built this building here, and this would be, well, right across from the Harpeth Drive, if you, which is a Shell station on Harpeth Drive. It'd be right across from there, and that's James Isaac Hewitt. Go ahead. He also had a feed mill right next to his repair shop, and he was having farmers would come in with feed, with corn and soybeans and wheat, and he would mill that for them, grind it up for them, and he got the idea, well, let's make a deal where I can go out to the farm and do that. So he developed what he called the Sweetway mixer truck, and they would take that to the farm, and the farmers would drop in the stuff up there, and the feed would come out at the bottom. He couldn't get a patent on his mixer because someone from England had a patent, already had a patent on a device just about the same as what Mr. Hewitt had. So he only made very few of them. This was a service station later on. He was sold it to Emory and Luther Hewitt. Emory Hewitt was the first mayor of Brentwood, I believe. Very good business, and during the World War II years ago, everybody had a used car, and everybody's car was the same thing. They were always breaking down. You couldn't order out a generator or a starter from Nashville somewhere. You had to actually repair it on the spot. Right here was the Stork Club we talked about a minute ago, and that was the feed mill we also mentioned. This is what I saw every morning from the time I was in the 4th grade until I graduated from Battleground Academy. I looked towards Nashville. I'd be standing on the corner of Harpeth Drive. I'd look towards Nashville. This is what I would see. This is the wives of the Hewitts that had the service station. This is a feed mill. That's the Palms Dinner Club. That's the drugstore. The little Texaco station there. I'll mention this sign here. Had no electricity to it. It advertised U.S. Highway 31 was the shortest distance to Panama City, Florida, and it had reflective lettering on it. And when a car at night, there was no lights in Brentwood after dark much. When a car came up Franklin Road and the light hit that sign, it looked like all of a sudden a big neon sign lit up. Okay, go ahead. This is my rendering of the Brentwood Methodist Church. I'm looking at the time. I can't tell the time up there.
You're doing fine. You got just about 2-3 more minutes.
2 or 3
That's all right.
Yeah, I'm
Is that
halfway.
okay with everybody? Yeah.
I'm halfway through.
Well, we'll do 2 or 3 minutes and get you back. How about that for the other half? We'll make sure I do that as well.
I want to call your attention to the first Brentwood Academy. You know, we got a Brentwood Academy now, and they're really sophisticated, really top of the line. Some of them don't realize, but that was not the first Brentwood Academy. This was the first one. It was part of the Brentwood Methodist Church. You look down here and you see that's my great granddaddy Thomas Oden was the president, and George Simpson, who was the postmaster we talked about, he was the secretary treasurer. Tell me when my 2 minutes up. Let me get through the Brentwood Methodist Church. It was built in 1878 on Church Street. Look here, you see these columns. They're not columns, that's actually decorated. That's the chimneys for the, where they hooked up the wood burning stoves during Sunday morning on cold weather. Keep going. This is something, that's Robert I. Moore, some of y'all, that's the Moore family in Brentwood. He was an organist there for about 40 years. This they added an annex to it here. On July the 11th, 1936, storm came through Brentwood, a lot of thunder, a lot of lightning, a lot of rain. Lightning hit the church. My mother, my brother, and I, and Alec Owen, the family we talked about earlier, we stood in the parking lot of the drugstore down on over here, Boulevard and Franklin Road, and we watched. We could see the flames and the smoke. The next, they were going to add on, just put a new roof on it, new windows and doors. Next week, this fell off, and so they tore all of that down and built a new church right on the same foundation. So I guess my time's up.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Everybody, let's give John. John, don't go far. Thank you all very much, and thank you, John, for being our speaker today. And I want to remind everybody, if you could help put up the tables and chairs after the meeting, that would be wonderful. Also, there's the. I'm getting there. I'm not finished. I have a list, Larry. There's a BRCCF meeting after the Rotary Club meeting. John and Holly will be in the back with books that he'll be able to answer some questions and sign. And John, what we would like to ask, if you wouldn't mind, we read to the students in in our elementary system, or first graders, is that right? First graders. And I hope you'll accept this pin on behalf of the Rotary Club as a thank you for being our speaker, and sign this book so that when we read it in the schools, we're going to tell them about you and your book and all the history in Brentwood. So I'm going to hand this to you. And once again, please keep all of our Rotarians that are in your prayers. And with that, if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we're adjourned.